Learning spaces or learning environments should not be just spaces where we sit and listen. I think they need to be more like transformative environments that would, spark our curiosity and, of course, embrace our diversity. Just like the LEAP program has been quite inclusive in all possible ways, I think learning spaces should be as dynamic as the problems we're trying to solve, So that, in my understanding, would mean engaging students to be part of the solution and not just being the audience. Yeah. Many a times we're just the audience. In as much as the professor is well informed than we are, it should be more of engaging. I'd love to see more interactive and hands-on experiences where it's not also just theoretic assignments of desktop research, but more hands-on. One of the biggest challenges we face here in Kenya, if I could say, for example, or across Africa actually, is that not everyone has access to the same resources. And this creates a huge challenge when we are all competing in the job market. Yeah. So by creating classrooms that are, let me say, full of color, comfort, inclusivity, we ensure that students from, different social backgrounds have equal opportunities to thrive in their differences. Whether someone is from a rural village or from an urban center, learning spaces should be designed such that everyone feels like they belong. This I got very much from the first session of our LEAP cohort, which you put aside everything and you actually feel present and you belong, regardless of whatever differences or whatever challenges. So that would be an ideal learning space for me, where everyone, regardless of their social backgrounds, have access to the learning platforms. And there's, of course, life is not fair naturally, but this unfair advantage does not create a huge disparity, especially when diving into the job hunting world. So maybe if I could link it to what I got from the I5 framework, we could ensure inclusiveness, innovation to bridge the gap so that no one is unfairly disadvantaged when it comes to the practical aspect. And yeah, the classrooms would be vibrant and full of comfortable setups. And this would ignite curiosity from the participants. And then I would have it not just a listening session, but an interactive sessions with the professors, and especially with the current Gen Z world, where we are a quote unquote know-it-all generation. Yes, we have a lot to learn, but a lot to share as well. Yeah, that would be my perspective. So I'd like to picture a blend of local wisdom, or rather like indigenous knowledge, if I could say, with cutting edge technology that is there. So I imagine a situation where we have a VR, virtual reality in a class, where you can walk through the national park or walk through the city's urban sprawl, analyzing sustainability in real time while you're just in a classroom setup, and not just read about it from a historical perspective, but having a present real-time aspect, if that was possible. I'd picture where education is more practical and fun. Because then with the amount of so many things to do and so many things happening right now, people tend to have really short concentration span, sorry. So with that, it has to be very practical. I mean, like, not every class needs to be like a TED Talk. Of course, TED Talks do help at times. That serious setup helps at times, but not all classrooms have to be, like a TED Talk. So I'd love to see classrooms that would resemble future workspaces. Like, for instance, imagine a business student studying in a boardroom kind of setup, or a law student learning in a courtroom kind of, team, or environmental students learning in a nature or a forest park theme. Yeah. This would make it easier when now getting into the actual practice world or the career world, and should help people to adapt faster in, real life settings. Because you find cases where someone gets overwhelmed when you're transitioning from theory to practice, and it looks like you really don't know all this stuff, yet you've been doing them just too much theoretically. Then you get overwhelmed with the expectation of your employer or the career space of how you should behave or conduct yourself, or maybe you need to be in the field more, or you need to be locked on your computer more. So yeah, if we could have this incorporated from the very beginning, then it would prevent students from being overwhelmed in the future. And yeah, I think it is also linking to the I5, where learning environments should be interconnected with a future workspace in this case. Or rather than spending 4 years in a traditional classroom and then step into the real world, you're kind of prepared for what lies ahead. So maybe to conclude that question, I'd say by linking classroom experiences directly with career environments, students can visualize the future workplaces, and it makes the transition to professional life much more smoother. And that would also help the current mental issues we are facing right now for this generation. Someone who's done science, or rather environmental science, and you've been in the classroom your whole life, then you get this job that requires you to go to the field and collect data and spend a couple of days there and disconnect from your family, maybe too remote that you don't even have internet access, so you do not have constant touch systems. We are so glued on our phones or on our devices, which is helpful on one side, but then that disconnect makes people get so overwhelmed. I've seen colleagues who we go to field research together, and they're like, I want to go back home, or I need to be closer to friends or family. But if we had often research in the field during our coursework, or sort of being prepared that is what your career would look like. See a case of IT experts whom their life is glued in a room on a computer nearly, 22 hours a day, or, for as long as possible. And they don't have interaction with the outside world. They don't even get time to experience the sun. You're on holiday, but you still have to have your laptop and your internet on email 24/7. It really gets overwhelming. So if you're sort of prepared that this is how the future career will look like, you can, well, maybe not change the career path, but make a sober decision, knowing exactly what you're going into. And that way, even from like the young generation point of the very young generation, we are made to, I don't know about the global north, but here we're made to believe that for you to be successful, you have to have the white collar jobs, law, medicine, such kind of stuff, engineering. So when you say you want to do environmental science, you're like, you want to be planting trees your whole life, because people don't understand what exactly the course entails. So if there was a way to have proper career coaching from a very young age, that children can understand there's more beyond being, of course, we need the doctors, we need the lawyers for sure, but there's more beyond that. And if you don't manage to get the A grades, there's still careers that are very impactful. You will still make money, you will make impact, you'll make change. And you don't have to be overwhelmed to keep up with the A grade perspective or society. Yeah, I think I've sort of jumbled my response, but they kind of intertwine with the mental sanity of our current generation. Sustainable leadership is sort of a new, two new components. There's leadership and there's sustainability, so it's sort of merging the two. So I'd say it's more like bridging, again, indigenous knowledge with modern innovation, because we can't run away from the local knowledge that we have in as much as we're embracing technology to create the real world problems. Because I'm not sure of who said this, but nothing is really new under the sun. So the issues we're facing now, they were somehow existent before, maybe just in a different form. So even the innovations, more of them really borrow from the traditional or indigenous knowledge, if I could say. So for me, I think sustainable leadership is being able to make impact, but not only through policies or the traditional leadership that we know in mind, but more of changing mindsets. And I've picked this from the program from the very beginning, where you may really know the science or the theoretical aspect of something, but if you're not changing your mindset towards how you want to address an issue, or in this case, a sustainability issue, then we will just mark time or retaliate on the same thing over and over again. Maybe if I could give an example in Kenya, for instance, we have this, or rather in Africa, I believe it's actually across the world, where there is this status quo of having to respect those who've been there before us, and for sure I agree to it. But again, we can't be fixed, or rather constrained to how we've been doing things for the last 10, 20, 30 years. We still have to also adapt to change. So for me, I think sustainability is being able to leverage on local knowledge, but at the same time being flexible enough, or rather having a mindset that can say, this works, this doesn't, or this can work if, altered slightly. So not really being fixed on the past, but again, not also ignoring not really the past, rather local knowledge, or rather indigenous knowledge. Yeah, indigenous knowledge. If I could give an example of a community in Kenya called the Maasai community, they are mostly in the northern Kenya, the dryland areas. So for them, they've been practicing land management for centuries in their own simple ways. And they understand the delicate balance between their grazing lifestyle and weather patterns and conservation. They might not know what climate change is per se, but if you interact with a woman from that community, they'll tell you, yeah, during this period of time, we used to experience this kind amount of rainfall. They'd give you the weather patterns in a simple language, and they can tell you that there's changes going on right now and what they've done to adjust to the change. So they do understand the concept, the science concept, but in a simplified way. So for you to be a sustainability leader in such a setup where you're dealing with the local community or the less educated, if I could say, you have to fit in and understand where they're coming from. Because as I said, nothing is really new under the sun. They've experienced these cycles before. It's just that they don't know the jargons that we as scientists would speak it from. So for me, that's what I tried to take as indigenous knowledge, more of indigenous knowledge in action, and it's very invaluable, if I could say, because it creates that good merger to incorporate what we learn, what we research, and even as we do research, we often go to the ground, and we often have to, fit in before you tell them to adapt green technologies or adapt sustainable farming practices. You have to understand where they're coming from first. So yeah, sustainable leadership for me is quite not very easy, but not very complicated. It's just being able to understand both parties and meeting people where they are, rather than trying to just pull them out of, their indigenous ways or livelihoods. So maybe to move on from the indigenous knowledge perspective, I think a sustainable leader is one who recognizes culture and then applies this to tackle global challenges. Being practical in the sense that you make decisions that have real impact on people's lives, yeah? Whether it's reducing plastic waste or in Nairobi or in any city, or whether it's improving access to clean water in the remote areas in Turkana, leaders in this space have to be more hands-on and willing to get into the field and use both the academic training and local wisdom to create a more holistic and sustainable solution for the dynamic problems that we're facing. Yeah, so I'd really like to draw sustainable leadership mostly from the local community aspect and, drawing from the local community aspect and their practices to create a sustainable future that honors both traditions and modernity. I think the academics, is that what like that? The academics and the teachers do play an essential role in the sustainable world and creating a just future, because they are like the torch bearers for knowledge and innovations, sort of the guiding light, I would say. The academics and the teachers, I take them as the gardeners for sustainable development, because they literally plant the seeds of innovation and then watch them grow. That's where you find sometimes even the students become way much better than the teachers in a couple of years. But the teachers never stop teaching or never feel, should I say, jealous because their students are doing better than they are or than they were, because their main aim is to plant the seed of innovation and literally watch it bloom. And they get happy and happier when they see most of the seeds planted thriving. So I think, in my opinion, beyond the classroom, how do I say it? They should be like, okay, the active researchers, they contribute to, rather academicians, yeah, researchers, they contribute to new insights to solving the real world problems because they go to analyze what is actually happening and they impact by passing on the knowledge, not keeping the knowledge to yourself. That's why you find we reference to a lot of already done journals, articles, literature review in a nutshell. So I could link researchers or academics and teachers in one umbrella because they tend to like help dig information and then use this information to create solutions for the problems they're facing now and in the future. I've learned this from my mentor, Miss Susanna from Ghana, that research is not just about theory, it's about getting into the community and understanding the issues firsthand and using that knowledge to make practical change. So I think that's the same thing as teachers. Teachers should inspire students to think critically and creatively, while ensuring that research is applied to address societal and environmental challenges. That's what she likes to say. So their role isn't just about passing knowledge, but I think it's about fostering or encouraging curiosity, inclusivity, and critical thinking, not just pumping you with knowledge, but helping you think, helping you come up with solutions. Because right now we're in a world where there's AI, so if I really want a direct answer, I can easily do that in a click of a button with my phone. But teachers now should ensure that they encourage people to think and analyze situations and come up with solutions, not just more of a copy and paste scenario, because the issues are actually dynamic. So it's not like before where maybe you could predict and copy and paste a previous problem, a previous solution to a current problem. Yes, it may apply, but there has to be the critical thinking aspect. So I think whether it's climate change, public health, policy, educators can mold future leaders who are not only knowledgeable, but passionate about what they do and passionate about creating a fairer world, So it's about teaching students to ask tough questions, to be unafraid of to challenge the system. And I'd give an example of Kenya, where the Gen Z are actually challenging the government and not scared of what may happen. Of course, there are pros and cons of being overconfident, but it has its fair share of pros, where people are not just going to take things as given, but be able to challenge systems, challenge processes, and thereby you tend to get content when the final verdict is given or the final solution is given. Or when you take up knowledge, you're content because you're able to ask all the questions you have, you're able to analyze the situation, you're able to give your opinions, and that way, with all the brains combined, the teachers being the core, of course, the guiding light, it, it becomes more inclusive and gives more concrete results. Yeah, I'd also say academics. I'd like to reference as researchers, but yes, academics, they play a crucial role in allowing people to explore new ideas, because then we're also not just basing on what has been happening over the past centuries. So this leads to like encouraging innovation, especially as we're looking towards a sustainable future. And then the interconnectedness of every aspect. If you look at climate change, or rather the triple planetary crisis we're trying to solve, they're really all interconnected. You cannot solve climate change without looking at forestry or energy or agriculture or fashion. So we are building a future, or rather teachers are building a future where one is curious. Where one curious mind at a time, ensuring that the students don't just learn about sustainability, but actually live it. Where you find your kid will come and tell you at home, we were told not to, or rather, we were told the negative effects of plastic. So then they'll adapt that in their day-to-day lives and live it rather than just speak it. Yeah. The LEAP program has been unlike any other fellowship, or rather typical research fellowship I've attended or I've been part of. And I'm so grateful for you, Laura and Marina, for developing this and putting this together. It was quite a creative process. It was actually, or rather is, like a master class, because we were developing the program together. And it's not typical research basics, because we all know that and we can all get that via AI. That's for sure. So it really made me think through to my inner self, even like think through, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I passionate about sustainability? Why is there a fuss in the entire world about all these things? Does it really matter? And if it does, then what can I do about it? So it made me to ask a lot of questions and to learn to apply that in many other aspects of my life, and not asking questions because you're looking for the negative. No, because you're trying to understand your whys and be very intentional with whatever it is you're doing, in this case being sustainable research. It helps me find my leadership voice, because then you're given a space where you can think for yourself. I could say it like that. Yes, you're being guided, but you can think for yourself. And then I also got to interact with people from different backgrounds, higher than I have achieved in terms of the careers, in terms of the academia space. Then the aspect of mindfulness really brought in a different angle to it, because it's something I've realized is quite critical in the sustainability world. People are getting into the climate space because it's now quite famous, has money, or so they'd like to believe, but not because they're intentional about it, not because they're mindful about it. So for me, through the LEAP process, I've learned to take the complex issues and break them down to apply the IFI framework, for example, to create impact in my work, in my research, in my country, and in the globe in the near future. Then I've also had a chance to learn something new I didn't know about, the inner development goals. I learned that through this program, which highlighted the importance of personal growth to achieve sustainable development goals. They are sort of interlinked. I really didn't know that. I learned that through this. Then it also showed me the interconnectedness of different disciplines. Transdisciplinary approach, yeah, where it's necessary to solve the current problems you're facing. You cannot isolate an issue. Sort of all disciplines all disciplines intertwine to solve the current global sustainability challenges. It also had a practical aspect, which was very eye-opening, where we had personal support with the two of you, Marina and Laura, and with my mentor. I've received invaluable support within the research space and beyond the research space. Because again, if you're not okay, or rather whole as a person, you may not be able to solve whatever it is you would love to solve in terms of the sustainability aspect. And then I've also gotten to learn that you can't really solve everything. In as much as you'd want to be the superhero of the world, it's a combined effort. So one person can't really solve the global sustainability issue. We have to pull in hands, and that's where the collaborative aspect comes into play. Another thing I also enjoyed was Sutra, the Sutra platform. It was something very new to me. It is an amazing learning and sharing platform, and it's been quite interesting to maneuver the the content shared there by you guys and also by my fellow participants. There's a lot beyond just a normal, literature review. Getting to listen to interesting songs, getting to share and receive opportunities, getting to see how people are addressing their challenges in terms of research, getting to understand how fellow researchers maybe handle their, plan their day or plan their research or multitask life and work, creating that work-life balance. Yeah, so it's been an interactive space for sharing ideas that I've really loved. And I'm also really grateful for my mentor, Miss Susanna. She has guided me through my research journey. We are still ongoing. And even though she was not my immediate university supervisor, she has really, really held my hand, actually keeping me more on toes than I than I keep her on toes. Despite her busy schedule, she's really, really come through. It has made me grow personally and academically. Then I get to learn experiences from what she's done, what she's gone through, what she's doing. The program has helped me build my confidence and sort of helped me understand. I'm still in the process though, but understand my purpose, or rather my reasons for why. Oh yeah, it has also given me, through the I5, the aspect of innovation and being bold with your ideas, however big or small. Yeah, being very bold and being intentional with whatever it is I'm doing in the research space, especially in the African context. We don't have fellowships where you co-create. It's more of you're just being fed with data, and it's more of just being quote unquote overwhelmed with information. But this one was done in quite an interactive way where you have time to digest some things, and the monthly catch-ups where you have content given to you in small bits, but enough quantity. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, and another big thing was on intuition and my gut feeling. That in as much as you feel overwhelmed, so somehow your intuition always guides you and is always right, even in the research space. Gives you a more personal and holistic aspect towards the global crisis or global issues. Yeah, so it's built my confidence to know that I can be part of the solution, whether you're in Nairobi or New York. In a nutshell, I could say that.